Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Ranking Member, and I hope that the concerns that Mr. Carney has put forward and that the Ranking Member can be worked out, because I think this is a very important bill, and I support it. It requires the SEC to update Rule 139, which provides a safe harbor for broker-dealer research on public companies like Apple, to include research on ETFs and other investment companies. ETFs have grown dramatically over the past 10 years, from roughly $200 billion to over $2 trillion. So it makes sense to get more research out there on this fast-growing sector. The Democratic witness at the Capital Markets Subcommittee hearing on this bill last week, Professor Bullard, said, and I quote, "The SEC should have had a completely different, much less regulated track for ETF research quite some time ago," end quote. Professor Bullard also made a very important point, which is that research on ETFs and other investment companies actually poses fewer risks than research on public companies, because ETFs and investment companies are already subject to strict regulation under the Investment Company Act. So it makes no sense that we would allow broker-dealer research on public companies, but not on ETFs and investment companies to also have safe harbors. I had concerns with the way this bill was initially drafted, which would have created a statutory safe harbor and would have taken away all of the SEC's discretion to write the appropriate rules. But we've been able to work with Mr. Hill and Mr. Carney to come up with a bill that addresses our concerns and is acceptable to me and many others. The revised bill reserves the SEC's discretion to modify their research rules as needed in the future, as soon as the SEC writes the initial rule for ETF research reports. The interim safe harbor in the bill goes away. This will allow the SEC the discretion they need to react to any future issues that may come up in their research rules. The revised bill also adds an important rule of construction, which makes it very clear that this bill in no way weakens any of the anti-fraud or anti-manipulation laws, all of which still apply to ETF research reports. So I'd like to congratulate Mr. Hill, who's worked hard on this bill and has a background in investment banking, which will make him an asset to this committee. And I'd also like to thank my colleague and good friend, Mr. Carney, who has put a great deal of time into this bill as well and was critical to getting this deal done. And I thank the ranking member who is working to resolve these concerns. But I urge my colleagues to support this bill and for the authors to work with those who still have remaining questions. And I publicly thank you for working with me in my office and making the changes that we recommended. So I really appreciate it. I yield back.